Welcome, Nick, to the Zoom room. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome back. It's been a little while. So
yeah.
Tonight we're going to be doing some of the text, which is section 6 of chapter 29. We're heading towards the end of the text. You're kind of diving at the deep end, but fortunately the thought system is kind of holographic, so actually matter that much where you start. It's one cohesive thought system. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and what we're going to do is have a read of it, and then we just translate. So we use an alternative language to just help you explain it a bit better. So there we go. Can you see the screen all right?
Yep.
You can. Okay. Yeah. So this one's called Forgiveness and the End of Time. And that's the first paragraph. So what I suggest you do is read it just as it is, and then we'll do any translations. Sometimes we change some of the words. Doesn't look like there's much we'll have to change in this one, but I'll help you with that. So if you want to have a go at it, just read paragraph 1 there.
Yeah. How willing are you to forgive your brother? How much do you desire peace instead of endless strife and misery and pain? These questions are the same in different form. Forgiveness is your peace, for herein lies the end of separation and the dream of danger and destruction, sin and death, of madness and murder, grief and loss. This is the sacrifice salvation asks and gladly offers peace instead of this.
Okay, so any thoughts on that?
Well, I think we've all, well, I certainly do. You know, we desire peace instead of endless strife, misery, and pain. That's for sure. And getting there, I think, is, you know, the most important, to be honest. And like it says there, forgiveness is your peace.
Yeah, forgiveness is your peace, exactly.
And I think if you can learn to let go, it becomes a lot easier, especially for the peace within yourself, I find. I'm not really too sure what this is, how willing are you to forgive your brother, but obviously I haven't done any of the pre-learning course, so that's a bit new to me, and what it's saying, to be honest. I think you may have frozen, John, I'm not sure. Oh dear.
Hi, Nick. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
It's okay.
Just kind of dropped off. Let's start again. So we'll just have a look at translating this first paragraph. So, how willing are you to let go of your misperceptions, really? How willing are you to let go of your misperceptions of your, and we call, instead of brother, we say companion.
Mm.
Let go of your misperceptions of your companion, because that's really what it's about. Forgiveness is about letting go of misperceptions.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes very practical and real. Let go. A lot of people don't really understand what forgiveness is, as we discussed in our last conversation. Whereas this is, very tangible, practical. Okay, these are your misperceptions of your companion that you've got to let go of. So there's no doubt about what you have to do. How much do you desire peace? Instead of endless strife and misery and pain, it's just strife, misery, and pain. Okay. So we just take out the and to make it a bit neater. These questions are the same in different form.
I can't actually see the screen, Johnny, to be honest.
Oh, sorry, I need to share the screen.
Yeah.
Let me just share the screen. Yeah. Nick wanted to join. So it's a short one.
Okay.
So not a big one. So can you see the screen now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Questions are the same in different form. Forgiveness is your peace. So what he's saying here is these are really the same questions. How willing are you to let go of your misperceptions, and how much do you desire peace? Same question, really. Same in different form. Forgiveness or go is your peace. For herein lies the end of separation, the dream of danger and destruction, sin and death, madness and murder, grief and loss, dream of danger and destruction, sin and death. Let me just change the commas there. I think might be good. Where's the comma? Where's the comma? Sin and death, madness and murder, grief and loss. So he's paired these terrible twins. You want danger and destruction, sin and death, madness and murder, grief and loss. So what he does is he highlights for us, what the ego does, and it's not very pretty. So a lot of people sometimes find it a bit hard to take, hard to stomach. But unless he tells us clearly what is involved in the ego's thought system, we're not going to let it go. So this is the sacrifice.
So if you're not worried about death, which I'm not afraid to die, because it's part of living. So you're saying that's letting go. Or is that a bit different? Because you're pairing sin and death, but is there really any sin? Or is that part of the whole letting go process? And the ego's telling you that there's sin and death, but in reality, there is no sin and death after letting go. Is that?
Yeah. So these are illusions, which seem to be real in this world. Sin and death are paired. So the idea of sin means that you think you've done something terribly wrong and that you deserve to be punished. And the ultimate punishment is death. Which is just not true, because we have eternal life.
No.
And we haven't really done anything wrong, because we can't really deny that eternal life and our true awareness. But we think we can. And so we have these illusions going on, which lead to these dreams of danger and destruction, sin and death, madness and murder, grief and loss. So he pairs them and says, this is what your dream of separation entails. You need to be conscious of it. And so this is the sacrifice that salvation asks. And salvation is, we have another term for it, which is awakening. So this is the sacrifice that awakening asks. Gladly offers peace instead of this. Maybe we could even make it at one-ment in this case. So at one-ment is the idea that everything's actually one. Sacrifice at one-ment asks and gladly offers peace instead of this. So already all that the at one-ment is asking us for is to let go of our belief in all of these illusions. And that's the only thing we are being asked to lose. Well, if these things are seen for what they really are, they have no true value. They're just destructive and meaningless. There really is no sacrifice. You're not actually letting go. You're not losing anything.
No. So is it a form of control in a way?
Right, to hold on to these things.
Well, yeah, I mean, somebody can scare you, into the danger or destruction or death as a form of control, isn't it? We're always being controlled, in some shape or form, whether it's religion or, you watch the news, if you do this and, you're going to die, or, there's destruction here. Is that the ego,
That's all, projection of the ego's thought system. What he's saying is that it's not really outside of you. This thought system is not in the world, it's in your mind.
Right.
The world becomes a projection of your mind. And when you see that it's just your own belief system being shown to you, and now you can choose to let go of those beliefs, then that's the key to freedom. So you use the world as a mirror. You recognize this is, if I'm seeing danger and destruction, sin and death, madness and murder, grief and loss, these are the things I must believe in. They're projections of my own belief. So the problem is not out there, the problem is in my belief. When I recognize that, then I bring it back home. Instead of trying to fix anything outside of me, I turn my attention inward to my mind and my beliefs, and recognize my only salvation or awakening lies in changing my beliefs. So I no longer believe in these things. I no longer believe in the cause of these things. The cause of these things is separation. In the separation, the dream of danger and destruction. So separation.
What is separation?
So the separation. Let me just bring this up. Separation is this idea of being separate from our source, from God, love, oneness.
Right.
Promised awareness.
Yeah.
And we
Okay.
We thought of that. It was a tiny mad idea, and then we believed it. We desired it. We wanted it to be true because it offered us something else, something other than this awareness. So we desired it to be true. And then that desire led to the formation of this seemingly other consciousness. It's of course caused the ego. It's been called consciousness. It's been called a belief in separation. It's been called Satan, the universal mind. There's many names for it, but it's a sense of a separated mind, awareness, consciousness that now has its own will, and it's not the same as this pure formless awareness. So now there's a split in the mind, and that this consciousness, this thought of separation, disastrous by comparison to pure formless awareness, perfect love. It's a nightmare. So you have idea of individuality that's arisen, and then because to be an individual self, you must deny oneness. You believe that you've actually destroyed oneness. It's the ego's belief, and so you feel guilty and sinful for doing that. And guilt and sin demand what? Punishment. There's a false expectation of punishment that appears to be real, that arises in the mind, and that gets projected onto a false concept of God who you think is going to punish you. That's the ego's version of God. It's got nothing to do with true God, which is just pure formless awareness. Has no idea of any of this. This is all just happening in a dream state, in a little thought bubble, you could call it, of separation. This now plays out, and of course the thinker that's caught up in the thought bubble identifies with the thoughts that he or she is thinking and says, this is me, this is true, this is real, this is most of all, this is me, this is myself. It's thinking here. So it's identified with the thinker, and then it gets caught up in all of this. And the ego's projected out its idea of separation into a world now of seemingly infinite numbers of separate forms. It's just multiply, multiply. And all it's trying to get you to do is to accuse and blame and control and attack other forms so that you can get rid of your guilt. That's the ego's plan, because you have this guilt on your idea of separating, and you don't want to keep it, so you project it out onto someone else. And then you end
so
up
when you
doing
talk of, sorry Johnny, when you talk of God and love, oneness, pure formless awareness, are we talking about the soul, or
no, I mean it's probably
No.
beyond the concept of soul. It's in the Eastern teachings they call it Brahman, or it's called the Tao in Chinese. Tao, Brahman. It's the whole. It's everything. It's the infinite, absolute, eternal reality. And then in the Hindu tradition, they have a teaching called Atman, which then is, I would say, that's equivalent to the Christ in Christian teaching. It's the one self that connects you back with this. I have a diagram on that, so I'll bring it up for you. Let's just go. Where are we? The right ones. So where are we? Holy Trinity. Okay, so there we go. So the Holy Trinity kind of explains this. You've got the pure formless awareness of perfect love, source, knowledge, oneness, eternity, God, Father, heaven, love, knowledge. There's many names for it, but it's this sort of ultimate absolute reality. The ground of being is another one.
So do we actually have a soul, or?
Well, yeah, it's
perception, or?
Well, the soul often has connotations of a separate soul. I have my soul, you have your soul. So it's kind of a higher concept, maybe of a mind that's separate. In the Hindu teaching, they call it Atman, which loosely translated is soul, but it's more like the one self. So it's a self that is true. That's the very essence of what you are, and there's only one of that. So when you identify with that self, then that brings you back into communication with this awareness, because one self means that you are merging back into this one awareness. See? So it's like an intermediary bridge, a self concept that unites you with the Father. So hence, in the Christian teaching, Father, and then Son being the extension, the Christ. And
so basically,
hmm?
so would you say that your soul then merges back into the oneness?
It's never really been separate. Your any idea of separation.
Well, it's not separate, right? Okay.
It's never separate.
Right.
So
No.
you just
So
think,
that
the delusion is
yeah.
that you think that you're separate. You think that you're separate, which is the problem. But actually you're not, because you're still this essence. What gives you any kind of life at all is this essence. You come from your source.
Yeah.
And that then creates the Christ idea, the Christ self in your mind. So this is kind of an intermediary bridge. In this awareness, there is no sense of a true self, Christ, Buddha, Atman. That all dissolves into pure formless awareness of perfect love.
So the soul's basically then perfect love.
Only that singular awareness and nothing else. Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect love means that it's only that. There's nothing else, right? So there's no sense of a separate self.
No. So the illusion is that our souls are separate and that they are us, if that makes sense. But in reality, they are just the oneness. But the ego is telling you that you're separate and your soul is separate. Is that correct? Or you've gone again, John. Yes.
Hi, Nick. Sorry,
Hi, Johnny.
just dropping out for whatever reason. I was trying to get on my Wi-Fi signal, and it wouldn't, so I went on my mobile hotspot,
Yeah.
and that wasn't working, and now it seems to be working. So
Okay.
yeah, it wasn't just now. Okay, so let's go back into shared screen mode. So where are we? So there you go. There's so that summarizes this idea of the Holy Trinity, the Father, Source, which is the ultimate, infinite, absolute, just pure awareness, and then you have a higher self concept, which you can call the true self or the Christ or Buddha or the Atman. These are all names which is pointing to this self, higher self. And from that, you can now actually perceive correctly the people, things, places, events, circumstances, situations, all the traumas and the dramas and the successes and the failures and all experiences that seem to exist and happen in the physical universe of time and space. So you have perception, which is now guided by the Holy Spirit, which is the third part of the Holy Trinity. So this is the ability to reinterpret the ego's misperceptions and think about things to perceive in the level of form in a different way. And that's coming from your true self. So of course talks about Christ's vision. Christ's vision is this higher perception of the Holy Spirit, which is the remembrance of Christ, remembrance of oneness. And so that leads you back to this idea. And when you unite your mind with this, and you recognize that I'm only one self, and everyone is one self, I'm nothing special.
Yeah.
Everyone is the same self. We all have the same self. So there are no individual souls. There's only one self. So it kind of transcends any idea of a separate soul. And then that one self, that self-concept, will bring about the experience of perfect love, pure formless awareness of perfect love, we call it, which is God, which is the ultimate awareness. So you merge yourself with this idea, and you believe only this, and then this experience arises more and more in your mind, and you kind of merge back into it. And so the Holy Spirit leads you back to Christ, which leads you back to God. And actually, this is an operating system for your life. It's designed to help you to find your way back to the ultimate awareness of truth.
Yeah. So basically then the soul's never been separated. It's still a oneness, but it's the illusion or the ego that's making us believe that the soul is separate. But in reality, it's never been separated. We've just got to find our way back. Is that correct? Is that so if if you've got a wife and the souls aren't separate, the soul isn't in me, the soul isn't in her, it's just one soul still, but the belief or the perception of the ego is making you believe that you've got your own soul. Does that make sense, or am I way off the mark? I'm actually
no,
get in there from what you're saying. So if you imagine that, the oval shape, that is all of our souls. We're there, but leading down, the ego is saying you are a person with a separate soul, and by letting go and learning this way, you're actually getting back to the whole form. So we haven't actually left this oval shape. We're still here. Our soul's there. It's just getting back to our formal awareness and perfect love. So that makes huge sense.
So we already have it, and we would have no life without this awareness. This is our fundamental awareness, without which we wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So it's you can't devolve it further. You can't
No.
break it down. You can't explain it. There's nothing beyond it.
No. No.
It's the ultimate, infinite, absolute, eternal reality that is called Brahman in the Hindu tradition. So that's beyond all concepts, beyond all names, beyond all form, beyond all concepts. And without that source still being present, you would have no life. There's no possibility of any awareness if that awareness weren't there as your foundation, which sort of seems to be self-evident. Certainly as you grow in spiritual awareness, like, well, yeah, obviously, I mean, surely that is self-evident, but to most of humanity, that's not self-evident. That's a truth that's been obscured by a false belief in separation, and that can look many ways. You can go, oh well, I've got my own soul, so that's a more spiritualized version of the ego. I have my own soul, and you have your soul, and now we can be twin souls. We still kind of separate, but we twin. But did you see there's a separation implicit in these ideas?
Yeah. So the ideas of splitting the soul is just again the ego saying that the souls are split, but in reality they're just oneness.
Yeah.
But your ego is telling you. So yeah, right, I get it. So all this twin stuff is,
well, twin by definition means two. So now you've got duality, not oneness. So any concept
so it's an ego thing, isn't it?
That makes one into two, which is what the ego's done. It splits it, is then by definition ego, or you could call it consciousness if you prefer. So a lot of people go, well, consciousness is the ultimate reality, but in Course in Miracles terms, Yeshua's teaching, consciousness is the domain of the ego. So consciousness is correctly identified as the domain of the ego, because it's the domain of the idea of separation, which then is given form. It seems to be real. You project it out, and now you experience this idea of separation as real in this dream life you've invented. You're saying, but outside of that consciousness of something separate, another awareness, there is true awareness. This is the awareness you chose to separate from in the beginning. When time began, thought of separation is what began it. Because we had a tiny mad idea, seemingly, that we weren't one anymore, that actually we were now separate from this awareness, and that we had our own identity. And we quite liked that to start with. So, oh, this is attractive. I can do my own thing. I've got free will. I can make my own decisions. I don't have to just be one with pure formless awareness anymore. But the downside of this belief, huge downside, is that you now have to believe that you've destroyed oneness in order to exist as a separate entity. See? So now you have to suffer the guilt of this imagined destruction in your mind. And that guilt is what drives you insane. Because guilt leads to fear, a false expectation of punishment appearing real. And that fear now must be projected out. And so you create a false world where all of this seems to be outside of your mind. Literally, you've gone out of your mind. And now you're doomed to be in a separated body that has a very short lifespan. You are going to die. And we incarnate into this body, and we think this is all real. But actually, it's just part of an idea of separation, which is untrue. And this is what Yeshua is trying to teach us, saying whatever happens as a consequence of the thought of separation. So that's all of time and space from the beginning of the Big Bang, seemed to kick it all off. All of that is illusion. All of that hasn't, in truth, really happened, because the thought of separation never really happened. It's not a real thought. It's a false thought. So we got caught up in a false thought, in the effects of a false thought and thought system based on it. And now we've invented a world, an alternate reality, which seems to cover over, seems to deny this, because it was made. The world is made from the denial of this. The thought of separation denies God or love or oneness, pure formless awareness. So our job just
So the
becomes
things,
to store our mind to
yeah.
this.
So with things like soulmates and things like that you hear about all the time, that's just a creation of the ego then, is it?
Well, yeah, I think with inherent in it, if we've got any kind of idea of unity, a soulmate, there's some kind of idea of unity there. So that's the truth of the matter. The truth is you're actually one with them. They're not a separate soul who's now, your special mate. The truth is you're actually one with them, and you're actually one with everyone. So there's nothing special about
absolutely.
you.
No,
The idea of specialness is clearly a separation concept. You're actually one with them, one with everyone and everything. Yeah. So there's no, oh, you're my special soulmate, you're my twin soul, because that makes you and them special and somehow separate and unique and different from everyone else. And that uniqueness and difference is the idea of separation.
Right. Okay.
So you start to see how, how deep-seated this belief is. It's entrenched in our culture.
I see a lot of it on YouTube. Yeah, I see so much on YouTube, twin flames, Blu-rays, soulmates, and it all just seems to be this belief that there is something more special than everyone or anyone else.
Yeah.
But in the reality is we're all the same, or we're all part of the oneness, but the ego or the attachment, well, I suppose attachment is the ego, is making it, it's sort of putting the blinkers on, isn't it? It's sort of covering your eyes with that mask to say, don't look at the oneness, look at what I'm giving you, it's special. And it kind of, I don't want to sort of say this with sort of humans, but sometimes that I suppose are all weak-minded at some point. But there's sometimes you sort of meet people that are so weak-minded, if that's, I don't like saying that, to be honest, but not weak-minded, but their belief is so far out that they're not prepared to look at anything else, if you know what I mean. But again, that's the ego telling them that, I guess. So it's not their fault as a human.
Most people are enslaved into this idea of being a separate self, and that's their mental prison that they put themselves in, because they believe that they really are a separate self. And of course, then concepts like twin flames and soulmates, and that's the more spiritual version, so-called spiritual version of the idea of separation. At the the very basic egoic levels, just, well, what's in it for me? Separate self, personality. I'm a body. I'm just a seemingly physical entity, and I have all these needs and wants and desires, and I will want to get them met at the expense of others. That's sort of base. And then the ego gets a bit more cunning as people start to everyone's looking for some kind of higher meaning. So then they start to become more spiritual, inverted commas, and so they start looking elsewhere, and the ego goes with them. So okay, well we'll create some twin souls, and we'll make some more sort of sophisticated versions, seemingly spiritual versions of separation, which seem to disguise it, but actually it's the same thing. In the end, you can't really compromise. You're either separate or you one. There's no in between state.
Yeah.
This is the fundamental teaching of A Course in Miracles, and any pure non-dual teaching. It says, look, you're one or you're separate. These are opposite states. You can't sort of be a bit one and a bit separate. It's like you're one or the other. So and those don't reconcile. If you're one, then you're not separate, and if you're separate, then you're not one. They deny each other. So you have to decide, which belief you're going to believe, because they contradict each other.
So if you have the sort of sense that you sort of love everyone, whether it might be an ex-wife, an ex-partner, or whatever, or somebody you've fallen out with, but you can still relate to that love for them, not in a romantic way, is that you sort of saying that, or you feel that oneness, rather than, when you see people split up and they'll just say, I detest that person, etc., etc. But if you can still love that person, like I say, not on a romantic level, but is that your oneness sort of saying that this is how it should be? Because that's how I feel now.
You don't really
towards
love
so many
them.
people.
The truth of the matter is you don't love the person. How can you?
No, that's right.
Love you.
Yeah.
Okay, so immediately you've got two others. I separate self, love you.
Yeah,
self.
that's
not really
that's
love.
what I'm trying to feel. No.
In the Eastern teaching again, they have the the saying namaste, which means I see you. I see you as you are. Now that's a much better instead of I love you.
Absolutely.
I acknowledge you.
Yeah.
I honor you as you are in truth, as the one self that I am. So, myself acknowledges you as the same self. Now that's really what we're talking about. That's divine or unconditional love. It's a recognition that, okay, we are one self, and therefore there's nothing really to separate us, and everything else, whatever seems to be between us, is of no consequence, because only that ultimate self, that ultimate reality, is true. And you're not fooled by any of the ego's attempts to disguise that. So it's a very simple teaching, enormously simple, but the very simplicity of it is what makes it difficult, because it's oneness or separation. You can't have both. And most teachers and teachings, in my experience in this world, so-called spiritual teachings, and teachers kind of fudge it, and it's kind of a compromise. It's like, well, we have a compromise approach, and you can kind of have a bit of both. Yes, oneness, in any spiritual teaching, they'll talk about oneness. It's like, oneness is it. But then they'll go, well, we'll introduce things like twin souls and twin flames. And actually what they're really doing is contradicting oneness. And what I love about the Course is he doesn't do that. He says you can't contradict oneness. If you do that, then you're in separation, and then you've denied oneness, and that's not true. You can believe that if you want to, but it's not ultimately true. And the consequences of that are pretty disastrous, because all of these consequences we show here, when you go down the ladder of separation, ending up as seemingly a helpless, enervated little life, living this life of limitation, lack, loneliness, suffering, and death. That's the consequence of it. So it's a pretty disastrous thought system when you really look at it. But the ego doesn't want you to see this. Never wants you to see in this kind of clarity exactly what it's doing. So it's going to disguise itself and say, well, you can be, a more spiritual, separate self. And so then you go, well, I'm now a spiritual one, and that's a spiritual ego. Still ego, but it's just taken on a different form. And owning this idea that I am this awareness, right? I am loving awareness itself. I am pure formless awareness itself. Only that really will undo it, because the ego doesn't exist in this awareness. Any other concept where there's any idea of separation, well, the ego is still very much alive and well, and it's subtle and it's insidious. You have to be really aware, vigilant for these concepts. Oh, okay, we're twin soul. Okay, well, that's separation. You've got the idea of two rather than one, and the two seem to be real, and they kind of unite temporarily, and there's a whole special relationship that's going on between them. Well, that makes them separate from each other, and makes them separate from others. So it separates oneness out. And now you've got a division of oneness. Well, that's separation, clearly. And if only oneness is true, then that can't be true. And so by this, absolute standard of perfect oneness, you can then judge all of this, whatever's going on in the dream world, and recognize it for what it is. It's illusory. It's simply not true.
Yeah.
And therein lies your freedom, because you don't have to believe in any of these thoughts, beliefs, ideas, and any emotions that come from it. You don't have to believe in any of it, because none of it's true. And that's the radical forgiveness or letting go that Yesh was teaching us in the course, that brings you back up the ladder from the belief that you're living a helpless, enervated little life and identifying with that self. And it takes you all the way back up as you correct your mind and you have various experiences which help you to let go, and systematically and progressively you let go of your fear and your guilt and sin, and eventually you let go of the individual identity. You recognize, I'm not a separate self. I never was. I never was in division and duality. See, that's what it's made up of. Division and duality. I never was. That was always an illusion. So the individual self no longer exists. The ego, which is just a master belief in separation, doesn't exist. It's not true. Then you get to the very cause, so-called cause of this world and your life in this world. And that's the sort of separation. And when you get there and you're willing to collapse it and say, no, I'm not separate, and I don't believe that in any way, shape, or form, then you're perfectly enlightened. You merge yourself with the Christ self, and Yeshua says God takes the final step. In other words, this awareness you just kind of merge into it ultimately. You let go of the body and all ideas of separation, and you just merge into it. But while we're here, we've got work to do, because this was only going to happen if you reinterpret this whole dream.
Yeah.
And you let it go.
So with the practice of meditation then, is the point of meditation just really to let go, any, if you feel like you're being attacked, any, thoughts, etc. So the practice of meditation is just really getting you into that, practice of letting go of everything. Because with meditation, you often see, opening the chakras and kundalini and things like that. I mean, isn't that part of an ego sort of type thing? If you're saying, I can open my, solar plexus chakra, my crown chakra, my third eye, and things like that.
If you identify with it, and that's important to you, because none of that's ultimately true. It's a means to an end.
Yeah.
If you do that and you open all your so-called chakras, and then you attain a state of samadhi, where you experience this pure formless awareness, perfect love.
Right.
Then great. That's what it's all for. It's to bring you back to the oneness.
Right.
But if you become identified with, I'm so clever because I can open this chakra, or I can levitate, whatever the siddhi is, they call them powers, whatever the siddhi is, it doesn't matter in truth, because the only thing that's important is, do you know who you are, really? So
so it is important to meditate then, just to
I mean, for forgiveness or letting go is always what it's about. But what meditation can do is it can help you to do that better, because it changes your state of mind. So in a more kind of a calmer, more relaxed state of mind, where you're more aware, it's easier to let go. If ever I have difficulties, it's like, okay, go do a meditation, because it just resets you into a more peaceful state of mind, which you perceive differently, and everything comes into better perspective. So that's what it does. It's often in the meditative practice, you withdrawing the senses. So you go within and you close your eyes and you just focus on something like your breath. And so you withdraw, awareness of all other senses. And so there's a natural letting go in that. You're not paying as much attention to all the other senses.
So meditation then is really is it sort of getting away from that ego? It's almost like jumping out of that ego and saying, this is where I am. I'm not going back into that, the ego sort of, with all the bad thoughts or, etc., etc. So by meditating, you're really coming out of that state and going into the true awareness, or
Yeah,
of your mind.
meditation is always about connecting with this, letting go of this awareness, which blocks the awareness of love's presence, as Yeshua calls it. And,
so you should never really, try to practice, like say opening your chakras, etc., if you don't. You can just meditate and not, be worried about, I hear so many people saying that, I've opened this chakra, my crown, and, I've had a Kundalini awakening, etc. But that's not really what it's about then. So it's just meditating. I mean, if those things happen, then fine. I wouldn't have a clue what they feel like. But
that
I know
means
it's
nice
to an
end.
meditate.
But what people do is they make them into an end in themselves. Now the end is, oh well, yes, I've opened my seventh chakra. I've opened all my chakras, so that's some kind of accomplishment. Well, who cares? It brings you back to an awareness of your true self, which, if you've genuinely done that, it should do. It's a means to an end, but don't make the means into the end.
Dwell
That's
on
a
it.
mistake. A lot of people do that because, of course, the ego is really terrified of this. It doesn't want you to come into the awareness of pure formless awareness. When you do, it's done for. There's no separate self there. So it's got all these cunning ways of going along on the journey with you, pretending to be your friend. I'll go with you, we'll have these ideas of a more spiritualized version of self. Well, it's just saying it's just another version of your separate self. So it'll do that. It'll shapeshift and go, okay, well, you want to become the spiritual one. So now we'll shift into a more spiritual version of the ego, but it's still the ego because there's still the belief in separation. You still believe that you're a separate self, and now actually a very special self because you're more spiritual. So now you're the awakened one, you're the conscious one. And you create a whole self-concept around that. And then, well, aren't I just so special because I'm better than everyone else because I'm awakening and they're all asleep. And so that's another version of what it does. And it's all designed to perpetuate a separate self concept. And when you recognize it takes a lot of mind training to really, be vigilant of it all the time. When you recognize what it's doing, you recognize it's a joke. This is a bad joke. It's like ridiculous what it's trying to do, and you don't believe it anymore. Well, the Zen saying that enlightenment is a joke, because when you recognize what actually is the ego is, it's ridiculous. The whole thing's just a bad joke, and then you're ready to awaken because you recognize that the whole thing's just a very bad idea, a bad joke. There's auto separation. To get stuck in this illusory dream world, seemingly, no way back. It's just a, very sick joke.
So it's getting stuck in this world. Is this almost like coming back each time, looping then? If you don't ever get to awareness, you're just going to keep looping in this circle, coming back in this form until you do realize that, there is only one. It's almost like the old cartoons with, you've got one on your shoulder, you've got the angel on one side and the devil on the other, whispering in your ear to do this, where you've got the other one saying, no, don't do that. So,
so this is another to look at this. It's just different diagrams to show it in different ways. So you've got this, again, same, awareness, God, Father, heaven, love, oneness, eternity, formless awareness, perfect love, source knowledge, whatever you want to call it, that sits there above the battlegrounds. This has nothing to do with time and space. This is just this eternal awareness. No. And the ego has convinced you that you've somehow separated from that. And you now have this thing called time going on. And so you incarnate into a body, you come into time, and now you're on a linear timeline. Seems to be, a series of causes and effects. And this is karma, cause and effect. And this is what governs this world. And you invent perception. Perception is is your perception of what's going on in this on this red timeline, always involving time. So if we don't transcend this, and we just listen to the ego, which is the red arrows, ego, psychological, and emotional attachment, what we're doing is strengthening our sense of the separate self all the time, and there's no awareness of another self, which is the Christ self, and the Holy Spirit, which is how this Christ would perceive this world. And so you just go through your life, you're rooted on the red timeline, very attached to the various crises and events that happen in your life. You believe it's all true and real, and then eventually you die. It's inevitable. And when you die, a lot of people say, oh, well, I'll be enlightened when I die. Well, no, if you've only ever believed in a separate self, how can you suddenly now believe that you're one self and you're one with this? You've denied that from your experience. So even though you're incorporeal, your mind is unenlightened, you simply skip this. You stay a while in incorporeal state, but the idea of separation brings you back. So this is your accumulated egoic energy or karma that brings you back. You haven't freed yourself from that. So guess what? You come back and you come into another body and you have another life of various ups and downs and traumas and whatever. And the only thing that will end it is if you really corrected your mind. You let go of it. Well, that's what's going to end the cycle. So you've got to practice while you're here. The Holy Spirit will reinterpret all of these dramas and situations for you, so that you can return your mind to this higher awareness, and be free. And so you're using your life to correct, your misperceptions, correct your false belief. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not a done deal. Just because you die, that oh well, I'll just go back to heaven. No, if you've got guilt and sin and fear and attack thoughts and all kinds of karma, as they call it in the East, psychological and emotional attachments, then the separate self is alive and well in your mind, and that separate self will cause you to come back into the body, because that's how it gets expressed in the body. And then you repeat the thing over, goes for another lifetime. Buddhists call it the cycle of birth and death, the wheel of suffering, and you go again. You have another go, and you have the same temptations and trials, because that's what your karma demands. But you always have the choice, if you want to reinterpret these life situations. Instead of being angry and bitter and resentful, you reinterpret it and say, well, this is actually just a call on me to let go. And by letting go of my attachments, I let go of the separate self that believes in them, and then I'm perceiving correctly, and that perception takes me back to the one self. The one self takes me back to this pure formless awareness.
Right. So, and this is where I go back to meditation. If you feel at some point that you are not being attacked, physically, or, you've got bad thoughts, or people say bad things to you, or, you've got dark thoughts, then the point of meditation is to let all that go. By keep doing that, are you training your mind each time just to say, let go, it doesn't matter? Because what I found by meditating quite a lot, the things that would bother me in the past no longer bother me, such to the point where it doesn't even register, if you know what I mean. It's like, well, so be it. It's not, there's no like I say, there's no jealousy, or there's no anger, there's no, do you see, it's just a total okay, fine. It has no meaning, sort of, to me, if you know what I mean, where it would before. I started meditating, and sort of getting into this course a little bit.
Yeah, that's the state, pure formless awareness. Meditation connects you with that, in which you go, nothing here really matters. If none of this is real, this is an illusion. None of it's really happened. Actually, right now, in this moment, I am this awareness still.
Yeah.
And I can experience that awareness right now in the moment. So it's always now. And that frees my mind from all of these false thoughts and emotions and beliefs that seem to root me onto the timeline, into this linear time frame. So meditation, is a great way of accessing this awareness, going into an altered state, tapping into it, and then we just naturally start to let go of the ego's emotional and psychological attachments. Free ourselves. So it's another technique, but again, meditation isn't the end goal. Meditation is
no. It's absolutely.
The ultimate goal is this awareness, to have this awareness be rooted in this awareness and only this awareness. That's the enlightened state. And the means are, there's many spiritual paths, many practices. Yeshua is teaching us forgiveness or letting go of our psychological and emotional attachments as the primary mechanism for doing this, which makes a lot of sense. He's going, well, this is what pulls you back onto the timeline when you identify with these ideas. So let's work on it. Let's look at these emotions and thoughts and let them go.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go back here. So happy with number one. So what I sometimes ask is just, can you give me a little summary of what he said there? Just for your own purposes of summarizing it and reminding yourself what we actually read. What's he saying in paragraph 1, in essence?
Well, how willing are you to let go of your misperceptions of your companion? Again, it's letting go, and everything is a perception. If you believe it's real, then it's there. If you let go of it and tell yourself it's not there, then that's where you're going to find the peace.
Then you find the awareness beyond it. You see, so the idea is it's like the covering of the veil over that awareness.
It's like somebody's put a black mask on you. When people put sleep masks over their eyes, it's almost.
And then you remove
like that.
And what's remaining is just this pure awareness.
Well, I think also you don't have to remove it if you can see through it.
Then the veil is gone. That's why they call it the veil.
Absolutely.
The veil is no longer effective, and you see through it to the true awareness that lies beyond it. And you can, mystic experience is this awakening. You awaken to this. You have an actual experience of this, and you recognize in that experience that only this is really true. And nothing that you thought and believed on this level is true at all.
No.
So let's have a look at the next one. That was paragraph 1, but just doing a bit of background work. So number 2, which is the longest one.
I will have to go soon, Jono.
Okay. How much time do you have? Another 10 minutes?
I'm sort of 15 minutes overrunning, but I got too in depth in what we were talking about.
Which kind of what happens. So let's just do this paragraph, shall we? It's a longish paragraph. We'll discuss this and then close it out there. So if you want to read this, and we'll translate it as we go. So swear not to die.
Yeah, okay. Swear not to die. You holy Son of God, You make
Okay, so pause it there
bargain,
because we're gonna just
yeah.
translate it as we go. So, Holy Son of God,
Okay.
we translate as wholly aware, extension of love. So this is our alternative language for the Christian terms,
Uh-huh.
because that's what you are. You're the wholly aware extension of perfect love and truth.
Mm-hmm.
So don't, you're saying, why are you making a vow to die?
Mm.
You make a bargain that you cannot keep.
You cannot keep.
And carry on. Extension of so an extension of life
Extension
cannot
of
be
life
killed.
cannot be killed. He is immortal as his father.
We change it to it instead of the he.
It is
Because
immortal.
this
Yeah.
extension is actually not male or female. It's just an it.
No. Yeah.
It's immortal as his father, as it's, and then father we translate as source. So it's just taking these ideas and putting them into a different language so that they're a bit more understandable and accessible for people.
What he is cannot be changed. What it is. It is the only, well, it says he, but it'll be, it is the only thing in all the universe that must be one.
Yeah.
It is the only thing in the universe that must be one. What seems eternal, we just got the arrow over there.
Yeah. It's just
Can't read that. There you go.
Seems eternal.
What seems eternal, all will have an end. Sorry, it's mine.
Yeah, what seems eternal here. Is there anything in all the just define the universe of time and space? Because there's a he uses universe in a couple of senses. There. Universe of time and space, there must be one.
What seems eternal here will have an end.
Yeah. Stars will disappear.
Oh yeah, sorry. The stars will disappear, and the night and day will be no more.
Yeah.
All things that come and go, the tides, the seasons, and the lives of men, all things that change with time and bloom and fade will not return. Where time has set an end, it is not where the eternal is. God's Son can never change by what men made of him. He will be as he was and as he is, for time appointed. Where have we got? Not his destiny, nor set the hour of his birth and death. Forgiveness will not change him, yet time waits upon forgiveness, that the things of time may disappear because they have no use.
So just do a bit of translation there.
Yeah, God. Yeah.
So God's Son is any idea of that? Based on what I did? For God, perfect love.
Yeah.
Perfect loves. Extension.
Oh, okay, right, yeah, okay, God's Son, okay, perfect loves, yeah, okay, extension can never change.
By what?
By what men.
Humans made.
Okay.
Of it.
It.
So really, what he's saying is our true awareness, our true beingness is really unaffected by whatever we think we've made of it. All of the illusions about ourselves are of no effect. He will be as he was. So it will be
as it was.
As it was.
It will be as it was and as it is.
Time appointed not his destiny. Time did not
point. That'll be it. Sure. Destiny.
Time did not make its destiny. That's the point. I'll set the hour of its birth and death. So we're really beyond all these things that happen in timeline. Forgiveness.
Letting go.
Forgiveness to letting go.
Yeah.
Letting go. Letting go will not change it. Time waits upon.
Letting go.
Forgiveness is?
Letting go.
Yeah. So you're kind of getting the hang of it. It's just a few key terms.
Yeah.
God is perfect love, or in full, pure formless awareness of perfect love. But sometimes that doesn't work because it's just too lengthy. So we shorten it just to perfect love.
Okay.
The Son of God is an extension of that perfect love. Perfect love's extension. And forgiveness is letting go. Time waits upon letting go. So that things of time may disappear because they have no use. So he's saying, we must let go all the things of time because they have no use.
So
not really serving us, not valuable at all. Okay, so that's the end of that paragraph. Any ideas on that? Questions, comments?
No, not really. It makes perfect sense, obviously, with the forgiveness or letting go. And it says, yet time awaits upon letting go that things of time may disappear. So I'm guessing by letting go, you're just getting rid of this perception of the world, because really they have no use or for any of us, really, I guess. It's just a perception that they are, but they're not really. So by letting them go, they really don't have any use for us. And by letting go, we go back into the one, the oneness.
Yeah, it's actually a very simple teaching, isn't it? It's just to do it because it's so opposite to the way we've learned to think and perceive in this world. It's challenging. But the actual idea is very, very simple. And it's very comforting, saying, well, it doesn't matter what you think you did and how you think you've changed the extension of perfect love. It's the same extension. It's only your denial.
So there is there's no greater love, then it's just one love.
Yeah, in the end, there is no father and son. Those,
it's just
seem to be in place because we believe in separation. So the idea of a father or source and son and its extension can be helpful in helping us to get back to this one ultimate awareness. in heaven, there's no separate awareness. There's only one awareness. It's heaven.
Yeah.
It's just a singular awareness without any other awareness. And so that's the simplest thing possible.
Yeah.
And the simplest thing possible is what's true. Everything else is false.
Yeah.
So any questions, comments, insights on the second paragraph?
What, swear not to die?
Yeah.
Or
What's he saying in a nutshell?
you holy extension, perfect love, you make a bargain that you cannot keep. So where it says it is immortal as its source, so that's saying that true love, or oneness, that can never die. You make a bargain that you cannot keep. Not really too sure on that. I don't know.
Make a bargain that you cannot keep. So do not swear to die.
I mean, are we? Yeah, swear not to die. I mean, but we all die. But then that's a percent. Our body dies. That's not saying our.
But
then I suppose our love can die if we got the ego.
He resurrected. So he showed us that this idea of death isn't true.
No, exactly, yeah.
In the physical, not everyone's going to do that, but he did it as a demonstration that only the mind is real.
Yeah.
And there is no death, even if you get murdered as you are.
Yeah.
You don't, haven't really died. So
yeah.
He just demonstrated that through the resurrection. Literally show his disciples the truth, because otherwise they wouldn't believe and they wouldn't have gone out and taught the truth. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, John, I'm going to have to leave.
You got to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a nice session. Thank you for that. And,
that was really good, John. Thank you. It's good to have these. Like I say, she's been really busy the last couple of weeks, but yeah, I did actually sign up today.
Great.
Unfortunately, I didn't put my name on it as you asked. I've just put the AOLG club on it as a reference, but
okay.
I have sent it over.
I'll figure it out. It's on me.
Okay, sorry, John.
Is it a stop order? It's going to run every day on the 6th.
It will run. Yeah, I haven't. So I've done it for now. But what I'll do is I'll set it up for the 1st next month, so it just comes out on the 1st.
Yeah, on the 1st. That'd be great.
Yeah, and then next time I'll put the reference there.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Thanks so much. Appreciate that. And join us again. There's session tomorrow afternoon. If you
I will try to get there. Yeah.
12:30. Yeah. Otherwise, next week you get one session a week. So pick a session either in the afternoon, evenings, Sunday evening, Tuesday evening, Thursday evening. Those are the evenings.
Yeah.
Pick an evening next week. Okay.
I'll definitely be there, John.
All right. Thanks, Nick. Thanks.
Thank you, Johnny. You take care.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay. So let's just read the rest of us. So nothing survives its purpose. Be conceived to die, and die it must, unless it does not take this purpose as its own. Change is the only thing that can be made a blessing here, where purpose is not fixed, however changed as it appears to be. Do not think that you can set a goal unlike God's purpose or perfect love's purpose for you, and establish it as changeless and eternal. Give yourself a purpose that you do not have. You cannot remove the power to change your mind and see another purpose there. So, just copy this. Okay, so that's just do some copy replacing. So God is the form of awareness, perfect love. Is state of pure formless awareness, and humanness is go. Forgive is to let go. Sun is extension. Okay, so let's copy and paste this. Nothing survives its purpose. If it be conceived to die, then die it must, unless it does not take this purpose as its own. Change is the only thing that can be made a blessing here, where purpose is not fixed, however changeless it appears to be. So do not think and set a goal, unlike pure form of someone's perfect love's purpose. For you, and establish it as a changeless and eternal. And give yourself a purpose that you do not have. You cannot remove the power to change your mind and see another purpose there. What he's really saying there is give yourself a false purpose, which doesn't change your true purpose at all. I'm just finishing this quickly, but a couple of paragraphs ago, is that okay?
Yeah, but you're finishing. Said,
Yeah, next go on. So I'm just finishing the translation.
I want to go to bed. You,
Okay, I'm just reading 3 more paragraphs. Okay.
no, it's not okay. It's not okay to even do one because you never even asked.
Okay, we're being recorded.
Huh?
If I can just finish this.
You just did it without any kind of discussion.